We're going to wait about 1 more minute, see if anyone else joins us. Hi, Avery. You need to hop out our story from yesterday. This is what time reading is every single Thursday, so I'm not sure what Mrs. Jones is doing live, but we always have reading this time, so Nolan, I'm talking to people. Shh. So I don't know. I don't even know what she's doing live. Is it her math lesson? Because we always have reading at this time on Thursdays. Well, you're going to have to watch the recording of one of them, but this is the time that we go live on Thursdays. Nolan. Well, you're going to have to watch the recording of one of them. All right. So I'm pretty sure it was page 188 or something. Someone remind me what was happening in our story yesterday. First off, what was the text structure of what is the text structure of our short read? Someone remind me. That's how it's set up. What is the text structure? Rochelle? Letters. Yeah, it's written in letters. Sometimes stories are wrote sequentially. Landon, are you telling me that I asked people to get on our stories like 9 minutes ago and you're still not there? That's a problem. You gotta follow directions. Some are written sequentially, some are written in cause and effect. This one is written in 2 letters. And we read our first letter yesterday. Let's do a rundown on our letter. This is so strong right next to me. Let's do a rundown on our letter from yesterday. What was the first letter about? First off, it's called Who Studies Natural Disasters? Someone give me a rundown. What was our first letter about? Kylan? Okay, so there was things about hurricanes and earthquakes and volcanoes, but what was the actual thing about? Like, why was the letter written? Who was it written to? What was the purpose of the letter? Like, was it a letter just because I was like, oh, let me get a new pen pal? No. Ava? So, yeah, you're right on the right track. So, remember Robin, the girl, she sorry. We're writing letters. She wrote a letter to this college professor, and it didn't say if she was how old she is, so we don't know if she's trying to get into college, but we know she's thinking about her future career. So she wrote a letter to this college professor asking, hey, what are some good careers that would go along with natural disasters? Because that's what I'm interested in. And what did she use really good blank? She used really good what? What type of words? Molly? Description words. Remember, she used awesome adjectives like spontaneous, fascinated, thrilling, passionate. She used all those great words to show us how excited and passionate she is about studying natural disasters. And also, those words helped grab our attention, right? It was way more fun reading things like spontaneous and thrilling and scared rather than just like, yeah, there's an earthquake. It shook the ground. Like, that's boring. She added a whole bunch of extra stuff. So now we're going to read the response from Judy Melendez. Still can't say that name. And coincidentally, they're both females now that I have read Professor Judy Mendelez on the bottom. So November 1st, 2018. All right, we're going to be really looking at her word choices too. So pay attention to what I'm saying. Dear Robin. Oh, wait. And also, man, this was a quick response. Their mail just must be on it because the 23rd to November 1st. How do you know that? Oh, they both do say California. Okay, but regardless, sometimes mail takes a while. Okay, that was just a fun little note. That was not a time to, that was not a time to burst out, Landon. I can see. Thank you so much for your letter. It's so encouraging to me to hear of your interest in science and natural disasters. The world needs budding scientists like you. What does that mean, budding scientists? I disagree. First off, think about a flower bud. A bud on a flower. Is it a flower yet? No, it's working to be a flower. So she's saying a budding scientist, like someone working to wanting to be a scientist. You're budding, but you're not quite a scientist yet, because obviously she hasn't even picked a career yet. You know what I mean? So she's still probably a teenager, this Robin girl. So a budding scientist, meaning someone working towards being a scientist. Your fascination with natural disasters can lead you to any number of exciting careers. For example, a volcanologist studies volcanoes. You may have met one during your tour at Kailua, however you say that one. Volcanologists often work at the site of erupting volcano. They also spend time in labs analyzing data about eruptions. Ooh, look, rupt. That was one of our whats from yesterday? It was not a vocabulary word. Roots. Thank you. You probably know that no one can predict earthquakes, but scientists called seismologists. I'm so bad at saying that word. Let's double check on how to pronounce it correctly. I think it's seismologist. Let's just double check, because Mrs. Kneifel hates when I pronounce things wrong all the time.
Everyone take their bets.
I think it's a seismologist. We're just gonna double check.
Google here to save us.
Well, yeah.
If everyone placed their bets, I bet him $0.
Hey, we're not gonna be able to hear it if you're talking. Seismologist. So, you probably know that no one can predict earthquakes, but scientists called seismologists help us prepare for these natural hazards. These scientists also work both in labs and at sites of seismic activity, such as fault lines. So that seismic activity is Landon. I can hear that all the way over here. Put it away. The seismic activity, like fault lines are where like the ground meets, that it's not like perfectly flat, like there's two plates that meet, and that's where earthquakes happen a lot. So they work at places where there's earthquakes often happen, is what that means. If you'd prefer the high winds and ocean storm surges of hurricanes, you may want to be a meteorologist. These scientists forecast the weather or study the atmosphere and the world's climate. Their knowledge and direction is invaluable in helping people stay safe during these mighty ocean storms. What does invaluable mean? If it's invaluable, what does that mean? Their knowledge and direction is invaluable. Yes.
That means, like, it's easy to predict.
No. If I say, oh, your work was just, Mr. Tun's work is invaluable to our school.
Oh.
Evan?
It's like something that's very, very valuable.
Right, very, very valuable. Like, we can't even put a value on it because it's so important. Like, if we didn't have meteorologists to predict when a hurricane's coming, people wouldn't be as safe, like in Florida and places where there are often hurricanes. Hurricanes can be every bit as dangerous as eruptions and earthquakes. You're absolutely right. I gathered data from seismologists for a number of years before I began teaching. I'd be happy to share my experiences with you and your classmates. Sincerely, Judy Mendelez, Professor Judy Mendelez, Tectonics University, University Avenue, Tectonic, California, 00000. That's not a real place, but that's besides the point. All right. So we already talked about how the professor feels about how Robin is excited about becoming a scientist. She's like, oh, that's so encouraging to me that other people want to be doing what I was doing. Like if someone was like, hey, Mrs. Kneifel, I really want to be a teacher, that would encourage me, because then what I'm doing is, getting out to you people. So remember, she's budding scientist. That means she's not a scientist yet, but she's like a flower, a baby bud that will eventually be a flower. So what type of mood or tone is the mood or tone of this, of both of these really, but specifically from the professor, like the mood, the overall tone, like is it like grumpy, is it mad, is it happy, is it blah 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 blah, all those descriptive words. What's the mood when you read? Nolan, say it up. You too. Yeah, you. Up. Boop. You're not sitting up. Was I kidding? I'm not. Sit up all the way. We are not having nap time. So, anyways, what type of mood is it? The overall feeling of this? Are we feeling good? Are we feeling bad? Like, how's the mood, Landon?
Happy.
Yeah, it's happy. I would say it's excited and cheerful. Like, the scientist is really happy that Robin met her, right? Was she like, oh my gosh, I can't believe I have to write you back? No, she wrote her like 5 paragraphs. She clearly was like, heck yes, I'll write you back. Absolutely, I will tell you more about this. What words and phrases does the professor use to describe hurricanes? So remember, Miss Robin on the one yesterday said swirling winds and drenching rains. Now I want you to go to paragraph 10 and tell me, how does the professor describe hurricanes? Paragraph 10. How does the professor describe the hurricanes? Nolan, give me one answer. High winds. That's one way. So yesterday, Robin said swirling winds. The professor said high winds. How else does she, Olive?
And ocean storm surges.
Ocean storm surges. Like whoosh, all of a sudden. And then one other one. There's one other phrase. It actually has 3 words in it. There's one other phrase. Evan? Anyone else? During the mighty ocean storm. So she's calling them mighty. So that was, she used the word high winds, surge, mighty. All right? So what is the main message that Professor Mendelez responds? Like, what's the main message we're getting out of this? Like, what was the main point of this? She was trying to get back to Robin what? Yes.
She was trying to get back jobs for her.
Right, like literally that's the point of it. She's answering Robin's questions. She's saying that there's many exciting careers that Robin can pursue to study natural disasters and to help people, which is exactly what Robin wanted to know. So go professor and answering her exact questions. Check for professor. How many, let's talk about how many jobs did the professor talk about specifically? How many jobs did the professor talk about specifically? I want you to name one and then tell me what it is. Marissa, I haven't heard from you. Tell me, what was one of the jobs they talked about, the professor talked about specifically? A what? A meteorologist, is that what you're saying? And they study what? I cannot hear you. All right, meteorologists study what? It's in paragraph 10. These scientists forecast the what? Weather. Meteorologists study weather, which coincidentally also happens to be hurricane. They study atmosphere, they study weather, which entails hurricanes. Lillian, what's another one? And they study what? Volcanoes. That one's pretty easy. Like volcanologist, the word volcano's in there. Like that one's kind of hard to mess up. And Julian, how about you? What's the other one we talked about specifically? Which? Seismologist. Perfect. And they study earthquakes. And like she said, no one can officially predict an earthquake, but you can study them a little bit at fault lines and stuff. So there's 2 pictures below, okay? There's one picture that looks like it's got some smoking going on. What do we think that that's a picture of? A volcano. That's definitely a picture of a volcano. And then there's another picture, and it says seismographs such as this one help people study seismic activity. So seismic activity is where two plates meet, which is where a fault line is, and that's just where the earth trembles and stuff. And if the earth, you can study patterns, and if the earth's trembling a little bit more here, maybe then a bigger earthquake's gonna come soon. And the graphs just look like this thing right here in the corner. Okay? So now we're going to, yes, sure, but you have to face forward. I'm going to post our cue chart on our board.
I have one.
Sure. We're going to post our cue chart on the board while you lovely friends get out your dry erase. Oh, leave your story open. You're going to need your story.
No.
Get out your dry erase board and marker, please. Oh. I don't want music right now.
Mr. Knifel,
Yes.
this is probably finna kick me out because it keeps freezing and it keeps saying reload.
Okay, well, the recording will be up like always, so if you get kicked out. All right. We're going to do some cue chart practice because we always need to be cue chart in our practice using our short read. Why is this volume still on? All right, so let's review how our lovely cue chart is used. What? I can't hear you. Yeah. All right, remember, these are our question words here. Who, what, where, when, how, why. Who, what, where, when. With is our was, did, do, does, can. Q1, right? Q2 are who, what, where, when, with, could, should, would, will, might. How and why, here, there. So we are going to work on our cue chart questions. Every single one of you is going to be writing cue chart questions that go along with our story. Landon, that's not what you should be doing right now. And when I say don't do that, it doesn't mean continue doing it. Okay, it means stop right then. So, anyways, the first thing I want you to do, and it can be a question that we already know the answer to, that's fine, but I want you to write a question for Q1 off of your story. I don't want to see it yet. Write a question for Q1, and some of them, I might share some of them. We might talk about some answers of one, but right now you're writing a Q1 question. So, it needs to start with who, what, where, or when. Who, what, where, or when is what it has to start with. Q1 question. Everyone has to do this. It is not up for debate. Lillian, where's your lanyard? Why is your card not in here? Eventually, when you have to start buying lunch again, you're going to need your lanyard. It has to start with who, what, where, or when. And remember, our Q1 questions are normally the simplest. They're answers that we'll be able to find probably directly from the text. Marissa, why is your computer not on the story? No, that's incorrect. That is, we cannot answer that question. The Q1, we should be able to find the answer directly in the story. Like, for example, when did Robin write the professor? October 23rd. That would be the answer. When did? That's the answer I can get straight from my story. No question mark. You better have a question mark. You better have a capital letter. You don't have to answer it. I don't want to see it yet. You don't have to answer it. Okay. I don't think you can answer that in our story. You have 1 more minute to complete your Q1 question. no one ever gave letters out, so that doesn't make any sense. You could say, when did Robin send the letter? But they giving letters out is not what happened. You have 30 more seconds, and I should see a Q1 question based off of our story. Meaning, it starts with who, what, where, or when. She didn't give letters out either. Giving letters out would be like Mrs. Kneifel took a letter and handed it to all of you. She sent one letter. Giving them out would mean multiples. And that was also the question I used for my example. So maybe we could think of another question besides the one Mrs. Kneifel specifically said to everyone. All right, boards up. Who is the professor? We know that. It says at the bottom she teaches at the Tectonic College or whatever. It'd be, what is a seismologist? Why did Professor write Robin back? That's a good one. What is a seismologist? What does a seismologist study? When did Robin send the letter? Who did Robin, I can't read her last name, write to? I don't even know what that says. Yeah, let's try harder. What would happen to people in a hurricane? We did not find that answer in our story, sir. You also don't have a capital letter. What is a meteorologist? Who will predict hurricanes? And is it hard? We don't know the is it hard part, but we could say a meteorologist. You put your J there. All right. All right. Most of us got an okay answer for or an okay question. See, like, is it your answer, but you're writing a question. Okay? Funny. We're going to work on Q2 now. Who, what, where, when. So, I could say, what might Robin choose to do in her future? Question. The answers would obviously be maybe a seismologist. Maybe she'll be a volcanologist. Maybe she'll be a meteorologist. That would be an option for a question. So you're doing who, what, where, or when. Could, should, would, will, might. This one, the answer to this, we may not find it directly in our text, but it should still go along with our story. Who, what, where, or when. So, what might Robin choose to do in her future would be my question. The answer would be the three lovely options. You could say, who could Robin also write? Question. Robin could maybe write a meteorologist to find out more about their job specifically. Robin could write a seismologist to find out about their job specifically. So this is deeper level thinking question. Where might Robin have to move to if she wants to be a volcanologist? Maybe to Hawaii, where there's volcanoes. That's the exact question I asked. I don't want to see your boards yet. When might an earthquake happen? According to the text, no one can officially predict an earthquake. It could happen at any time. Look, Mrs. Kneifel just thought of 4 questions.
What do we have after this since you're right there? Rotation 2. Well, no, homeroom. Yeah, then I have to finish my spelling homework.
You have about 1 more minute to write me a Q2 question. Mrs. Kneifel gave you about 4 examples. Better be some good questions. You better have a capital letter and a punctuation mark. It's a question, which means you have to have a question mark. 30 more seconds, and I want to see your boards. All right. When might Robin write back? She might write back right away. Or that's a question we may not know. When will the next hurricane happen? Okay, so we don't know.
That can be predicted, though.
That can be predicted. I was just going to say a meteorologist would predict that, Landon, if you let me speak.
Yeah, because they take longer than tornadoes.
That does not make sense. Why would Robin want to go to college about science? Because remember, earth science is her favorite. When might an earthquake hit? We can't predict that. What might a meteorologist predict? That's a good one. They might predict tornadoes. They might predict hurricanes. They might predict thunderstorms. They might predict snow. When might Robin study hurricanes? Okay, well, we have no question mark. And probably when, anytime really, or specifically if she became a meteorologist. What might a seismologist study? They might study the fault lines. They might study the seismographs. Okay. What would a seismologist do? What could Robin? Okay. What might Robin? I don't know. Right experience would definitely need. I don't know what you mean. Experience what? Experience food. Experience jail time. Experiencing. I don't know. All right. Remember, when you're thinking about your questions, you should also be able to answer it for me, okay? Even if the answer isn't 100% in our story, it needs to make sense. You should be able to tell me. Okay, that doesn't really make sense. What do you mean, who will Robin teach? I don't know. Robin never said she wanted to be a teacher.
No, who will teach Robin? Like, who will teach her the science?
Okay. All right. Next, we have how and why. All right, I'm going to ask the questions now, and you're going to answer them, okay? So you're not going to be creating the questions. You're just going to be answering the questions, okay? How could Robin find out more about being a volcanologist? How could, you're going to write it on your board. How could Robin find out more about being a volcanologist? I can think of like 3 answers. How could Robin find out more information about being a volcanologist? This is a Q3 question. How could, no, this is a Q4 question. I lied. Q4 question. How could Robin find out more about being a volcanologist? Actually, I can think about like 4 answers. Not everyone's answer is going to be the same. How could she find out more about being a volcanologist? Tell me, tell me, tell me, tell me. How could? Bless you.
Bless you.
You have 1 more minute. 1 more minute to answer this. How could Robin find out more information about being a volcanologist? All right, I'm going to start reading answers. She could write a letter to an actual volcanologist. She could send another letter to Judy, Melendez, and maybe she'll be able to tell her more answers. What else?
I know what.
She could send more letters and ask more questions by going to college and studying that.
This is
By
like
talking to someone. By studying with one, like actually going to like maybe shadow one. Anyone else have any other different things? You could ask more questions. I think I said that one. Anyone else have any more different things than what I said? She could actually decide to go to college for that. She could write them more letters. She could read about them maybe. Maybe she could literally go on the internet and search that. Maybe just find out more like that. Go to a library. There's all different ways how she could find out more about being a volcanologist. Now, this is a direct question from our story. Everyone should have the same answer. Why did Robin write the professor? This is a Q3 question. Why did Robin write the professor? And not someone else. Why did she write a different professor?
So it can't be Melendez.
You clearly didn't listen. Why did Robin write the professor? From our story, there's a specific sentence. My earth science teacher told me you teach college classes on natural disasters and suggested I send you a letter. So, why did Robin write a letter? Because her teacher told her to. Her teacher said, hey, this girl, this lovely professor teaches these classes. Write her a letter. That is literally the answer. That should be direct information. That would be a time where you would have to use your story to answer a question. Because sometimes you actually have to go back and look. True story. All right. This is going to be another one straight from your story. Where do seismologists study at? What locations do they normally study at? At what? What are they called? Here, it's in the thing. Where do seismologists normally study at? What's the location called? It's in the story. I'm going to let you know. You should be looking at the right side. What the professor said back. What's it called where they study at? Unless you know the entire earth is covered with plates. Miss Rochelle has the correct answer. Can you tell me where they meet or where they study? Yes, they study in labs, and then they also study at sites that are called fault lines, and that's where plates of the earth meet, and there's seismic activity there. So you could have said fault lines or labs. Either would have been, those would have been fabulous. All right, most of you guys did a pretty good job with our questions today. I've decided I was going to have you guys I was going to be spontaneous and have you guys do a question for homework, but I don't think I'm going to. Instead, we have about 10 minutes left of reading class. For the next 10 minutes, I want everyone to reread this story. Just go through it again. It doesn't take you very long. And then after that, you may read for AR. So you do not have reading homework tonight unless you haven't finished your e-learning, which is some of you peeps. Tomorrow, we are going to do something different in reading class. What? Okay, so you do not have homework tonight. Thank you for joining me if you were here. If you were not here, hopefully you're going to be watching this via recording. So long. What's up, Avery? Or not Avery. What's up, Ava? Yes. Can you guys wait 1 second? No. I just asked everyone